All right, for today's deep dive, we are heading deep into the Afrotropical forests. We're going to talk about a bird, a species that seems to be going through, well, a bit of an identity crisis.
We are, and that identity is the fire-crested alethe. Its scientific name is Alethe castanea, and for, decades it's had this very clear-cut reputation.
A very specific reputation. It's known as a classic ant-following bird. Its whole survival strategy, or what we thought was its whole strategy, was built around this one unique partnership.
Right, but the sources we're looking at today, they document something completely different. A fascinating report out of Uganda's Budongo Forest Reserve.
It's a total upheaval. The alethes, they're still following, but their partners have changed. They've traded up from ants to something much, much larger.
And our mission here is to really dig into that shift. This isn't just a quirky little observation. It might be telling us something profound about ecological adaptability, about how a species can, just rewrite its own rule book when its environment starts changing.
Okay, so before we get to the new stuff, let's set the stage. What does classic ant following actually look like for this bird?
Well, it's a very precise ecological niche. The alethes, they primarily follow raiding swarms of army ants. We're talking about the Doralus genus, often called driver ants.
And these are not just any ants. These are huge social hunting parties moving across the forest floor.
Exactly. They move in these massive aggressive fronts, and as they move, they flesh out pretty much everything hiding in the leaf litter.
Spiders, crickets, small lizards.
All the little cryptic things that a bird would never normally be able to find. And the alethes are smart. They don't eat the ants.
No, they just hang around the edges of the swarm and pick off all the panicked escapees. It's like having a personal catering service.
It is, and that's a textbook case of what we call bird-insect commensalism. The bird gets a huge benefit, easy, high-energy food, and the ant swarm, which has millions of individuals, is not really harmed or bothered at all.
So that's the baseline, a specialized, predictable system. Now, let's pivot to this core finding. The alethes are now using, well, us, humans,
Yeah.
and other large animals as mechanical disturbers.
Right. The specialization seems to be giving way to a new kind of opportunism. And the details in the observations, they really show how deliberate this all is.
It's not just a bird flying near a person by chance.
Not at all. We're talking about a very intentional, very close association that was seen over and over in the Budongo Forest Reserve.
Okay, let's get into the anecdotes. The report from July 2nd, 2022. A bird followed the researchers for about 10 minutes.
And it stayed just 1 or 2 meters behind them, pecking right where their shoes had just disturbed the soil.
And it would fly ahead to catch up, to reposition itself right in the sweet spot.
That alone suggests it's learned to connect the sound, the rhythm of human footsteps, with food. But the second observation, a few days later, that's where it gets really wild.
This is the one where a bird followed them for at least 20 minutes. And the proximity, it got as close as 4 inches.
4 inches. I mean, that's unbelievable for a wild bird. It's practically on their shoe.
Right. And the source says it showed absolutely no fear. One of the researchers was even able to gently touch it with a leaf. What does that level of comfort tell you?
It tells you that the bird's entire risk assessment has been rewritten. Fear takes energy. For a small bird in the forest understory, being afraid of a huge, loud, moving object is, survival 101.
But this one has done the math.
It has. It's calculated that the energy reward, all those flushed insects, is way higher than the risk of being attacked. The human has been reclassified from potential threat to reliable food source.
It's a very practical adaptation. But how does a hiking boot actually replace a swarm of millions of ants? The mechanism feels so different.
It is a totally different mechanism. The leaf litter there is deep, it's dense. The ants, they work on a microscale. They use chemicals and sheer numbers to force things out.
But a boot or a hoof, that's just brute force, isn't it?
Exactly. It's physical displacement. It's compression. You're not using chemical cues, you're using mechanical fleshing. You're literally just smashing open the protective cover of the leaf litter.
And the third observation really cements that this is a real strategy.
Oh, absolutely. The one where a bird followed them for over 256 meters.
A quarter of a kilometer. That is not a chance encounter. The report says it was making soft chirps. It waited when the people stopped for a break.
And it would come closer and sit beside them when they sat down. That persistence is everything. It shows the alethe is actively, deliberately using the human as a mobile foraging platform.
They've basically swapped a volatile, weather-dependent partner for a predictable mechanical one.
It's an incredible pivot for a species we thought was so specialized. But it's not just humans who are being put to work here,
Right. The alethes seem to be expanding their whole network of helpful partners.
which helps put this all in context. I mean, bird-mammal commensalism isn't new. It's all over the world.
We've all seen cattle egrets following cows, or even tractors, to catch insects kicked up in fields.
Exactly. Or snowy egrets that hunt fish fleeing from bigger predators in the water. Even the bushbuck itself, the animal in the next observation, is known to have birds hanging around it.
So this brings us to that specific interaction. July 26, 2022, 2 fire-crested alethes and 1 lone bushbuck.
Yes. And the birds were really trying to make it work. They repeatedly tried to land on the bushbuck's back.
Which is a common behavior, right? They're either looking for ticks and parasites or just using the animal as a better vantage point.
Right. They did manage to perch for a few seconds at a time, but the bushbuck was less than thrilled about it.
So not as tolerant as the human researchers then.
Not at all. The report is clear. The bushbuck was actively trying to get them off, moving its tail rapidly to shake them away.
So it's a partnership where one partner is a very unwilling participant?
Yes, and when the bushbuck started moving, the birds followed, but they were much more cautious than with the humans. They'd wait for it to move a few meters and then fly to catch up.
That's a key difference. The humans are passive hosts. The bushbuck is just trying to shake off an annoyance.
That difference is important. But there's one more piece to this puzzle, a really intriguing one. It's a preliminary observation, but it's connected to that same bird that followed the researchers for over 250 meters.
Ah, the chimpanzee connection.
Exactly. After leaving the researchers, this same alethe flew over to a group of resting wild East African chimpanzees.
Pan-troglodytes.
And it perched within 1 meter of them. And the key thing is, neither the bird nor the chimps seemed bothered at all.
It's just one observation, so we can't get carried away, but it opens up a fascinating possibility. Chimpanzees in Budongo spend a lot of time on the ground.
They do. They disturb the leaf litter constantly when they're traveling or foraging. While it's not the same kind of concentrated disturbance you get from a herd of cattle, their movement could absolutely provide the exact same kind of mechanical flushing opportunity the alethe is now keying in on.
So that forces us to really rethink this idea of behavioral rigidity. Why is a bird that evolved to be a specialist ant follower suddenly trying out all these other large animals?
That is the central mystery. And while the old literature screams specialization, we're now finding that, maybe over 200 bird species worldwide opportunistically forage with mammals.
But this is a first for this species, for an alethe.
To the author's knowledge, yes.
Yes.
This is the first published report of any alethe species doing this, let alone with humans. It completely flips their ecological profile on its head.
A species defined by its relationship with an insect is now treating primates and ungulates like mobile food trucks. So this brings us to the big question, why? What's driving this shift in Budongo?
The sources lay out 2 major hypotheses, and they're probably related.
Okay, let's take the first one, the idea that this is a localized adaptation.
Right. This idea hinges on the unique environment of the Budongo Conservation Field Station. You have very high, very predictable presence of humans. Researchers, field staff.
Walk the same trails day in, day out.
Exactly. It's a reliable, low-risk, high-reward food source that basically shows up on a schedule. The alethes in that specific area may have just learned to exploit this cue, the sound of boots on a trail, and it's become a local behavioral tradition.
So it suggests amazing cognitive flexibility, rapid learning.
It does. But we have to consider the bigger picture. Just because they can follow researchers in Budongo doesn't mean the species is fine everywhere. Which leads to the second, and frankly, more concerning hypothesis.
The climate change response.
This is the really sobering part. The alethe's main food source, those driver ants, are incredibly sensitive to their environment. They need very specific conditions.
Temperature, rainfall, humidity.
Yeah.
It all has to be just right for them to do those massive raids.
Precisely. And climate models for the region are projecting more variability. Wetter wets, hotter, and drier dries. If those conditions change, the window for reliable ant swarms could shrink dramatically.
So the ants just become less dependable.
The resource plummets. And under that interpretation, the bird isn't just switching because humans are convenient. It's switching because its primary partner is becoming unreliable due to climate stress.
So this new behavior is actually an adaptive response, a necessary diversification to survive.
That's the idea. The alethe is restructuring its entire energy budget, substituting a volatile, weather-dependent resource for a predictable mechanical one.
That reframes this whole thing. It goes from being a cool curiosity to a critical survival indicator.
And that's why documenting these small behavioral shifts is so important. This kind of plasticity, the ability to pivot from specialist to generalist, might be the key trait that allows species to persist in forests that are under increasing stress.
It's like an early warning signal of a much bigger ecological shift.
And it shows that even what we think of as a rigid behavioral niche isn't set in stone. The alethe is testing its own limits, looking for stability anywhere it can find it.
That is such a powerful takeaway. The fire-crested alethe really teaches us that success in a changing world might just come down to how quickly you can redefine who your partners are.
One day it's an army ant swarm, the next day it's a hiking boot.
And the data just screams for us to now track the primary resource. We need to know if the availability of driver ant swarms is actually going down. If it is, then the alethe's shift isn't just quirky, it could be a sign of desperation.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to take away. If a specialized feeder like the alethe is already restructuring its fundamental survival strategy, what other crucial, often invisible, symbiotic relationships in that forest might be quietly breaking down or rearranging themselves right now?
And what are the downstream consequences if the tiny keystone partners, like the ants, are the ones that fail first? It's a powerful reminder that ecological change doesn't always start at the top of the food chain. Sometimes it starts right there, in the leaf litter.